Hey guys, welcome to Recraft Relic channel and I hope you're doing well. Some of you guys wanted me to do a video where I'll show how to integrate Firestore with React. So that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to use Firestore APIs to store user specific tasks. For example, we're basically going to, in basic words, we are going to build a to-do app for users. So a user can basically log in, they can create their task, and that's pretty much it. All right. So let's do that, and yeah, let's get started. But before starting, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'll request you to subscribe and share this video if you like it. So let's get started. All right. So here is a application. Here is a Firebase auth application that I already created in one of my past video. And this basically integrates Firebase authentication, and you will be able to like sign up and log in using Firebase. So I already have built that. I'm going to use that as a base. I'll basically link down the GitHub and the YouTube video walkthrough for this app in the description. Let's get that out of way and let's get started. So firstly foremost, I'm going to log in. So I already have created a user using this account. I can go here and create another account if I want to, but I'm going to use it. I'm going to click login, and you can see, that, I'm logged in. I can click on log out to log out and stuff. So before starting to like integrate Firebase, Firestore in our application or writing any code, we have to configure the basically the database structure that we're going to have. For that, we have to create a collection, and for that we are going to go into our Firebase Firestore. So what you guys have to do is go here, select your application. In that, click on Firebase database, and yeah, there you have it. If you haven't configured the Firebase database before, I already have done it. It will maybe ask for your location and stuff. So for that, I will basically link down a link where you can basically it will walk you through the setup process. But yeah, in the end, you will have something like this, and you can create a collection. So we are going to be creating a collection, and we'll call it tasks. So because we're going to save all of our tasks in this collection, and I'm just going to click next, and then it will ask, like what kind of fields you need and stuff. So first thing is that whatever the document we're going to create, it will have a document ID, it will have a field called name, and then it will have a user, basically a user like a user ID, which will help us to determine, to which user this task basically belongs to. So we're going to save, and as you can see, we created our first document. If you don't need it, you can also delete it. Delete document. Right, so you can see we have a collection, and now we can basically use it in our Firebase application and get started. So in order to do use Firebase, obviously you have to initialize your application. You can watch my other video on how to do all of this, but it's pretty easy. You can get all of this information for your Firebase console and just copy and paste it here. Okay. So what I will do is, firstly and foremost, I'm going to go here and create a new folder, utils, and then inside I'll create a folder called firebase.js. And why basically I'm building this firebase.js is because I'm basically going to export DB from it. So basically, we're going to initialize the app, and then pass it to the Firestore, and that Firestore instance, we're going to use it as a DB in basically to create tasks and stuff and all, doing all that stuff, right? So, okay, so let's do it. Firstly and foremost, what we're going to do is we're going to move this initialization inside the firebase.js. So I'm just going to copy this It will really help if you watch the previous video, because you know all of this configuration I explain how to do it and everything, so it will be really great. Or you can just get the GitHub source code and just follow along. So, and then you need this initialize app as well. So now I'm just going to go here, paste this. Now we have initialized the app. So now what we actually have to do is something like this. So we're going to create a function called, and we're also going to export it, export const initialize firebase. And what this basically going to do is take our firebase config, initialize the app, and store it inside app. And then we are going to do something like this. Const db equal to get firestore. So get firestore, and then we are going to pass our app. So it's basically going to get the firestore instance for using our app configuration, and we have to import it from get firestore from firebase / firestore. So we are going to get it from Firestore. As you can see, it takes a app and then return the Firestore instance. You can get a lot of information by just hovering over these, because you know they have a lot of documentation and already being done for them, and you can actually see example and stuff inside it. It's a really useful feature, and you can see what are the params, you know, why are they optional or not, you know, everything. So now we have this, we have initialized Firebase, but what I actually want to do is to export this. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do is db equal to, and I'm going to define db as a global variable which I can export then. So I'm just going to do export const get db equal to return db. Why I am keeping it global? Because it's really easy to do it that way. Because if I do something like this, then its scope is just limited to here, and then I can't export it. Or what I have to do is I have to return db from here, and then I have to call initialize firebase again and again. So I don't want to do that. I only want to call it once and then set it up inside db variable, and then get it. Why I defined it as a function, why I just didn't exported it. I most probably the normal export will also work, but what this function will ensure is that it will always give you like the basically the latest instance from the memory. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's also kind of a neat thing to do as well, instead of just exporting a global variable. So once that is done, what I want to do is I want to call initialize firebase here. So it will initialize our application just like before. And if I go here, reload the page, it will still work, which is great. Now what we're going to do is inside our dashboard, we're going to create an input and a button which will help us to type in a task, and when we click on add, it will add it to the it will make the API hit or use Firestore to save the task. And then next we're going to retrieve the whole list basically. So let's get started. Let's get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to login, and I'm going to just copy this input, this whole input. It's easier. Again, watch the other Firebase auth video if you haven't already done that. It will be really, really helpful for you to follow along with this. So I'm just going to remove it for now and save it and see how that looks. Great, it looks great. Instead of email, I'll just say add a task, and then I need a button, so I'm just going to copy this logout button. By the way, I'm using Tailwind, so all of the styling, I'm not writing any CSS. I'm using Tailwind framework to style the whole application. and I'll show you do that. Like I'll show some perks of that. So for example, this is logout, so I'm just going to remove like rename it to add task, right? And then I'm going to make it full width. So in order to do make this button full width, I just have to say w full, and it will make it full width. And then I also don't need this gradient because it's repeating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this gradient and just keep bg pink 500, and this is the color variation, and you can see I have this add task also. Yeah, so we have a cursor that looks great. So we have the UI. Now let's save the task in the state first. So let's make it a controlled input. So const task set task, and it will be equal to use state, which will be empty by default. Great. Now I'm going to add these values here. Value equal to task, then on change will be equal to e set task to e target dot value. Great. And hopefully that will work. I most probably think it will. And now let's create our submit function, like which will add the task to the like which will call the Firestore methods to save the task in our collection. So const, I'll just name it to add task, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do console.log the task just to see if it's working. Save it, go here, inspect the element, and also add this as an on click handler. Instead of on click logout, I'm going to do add task, right? So I'm just going to go to the console and I'm going to reload the page, and let's see. Let's say buy something, click on that task, and you can see the buy something there, right? So that's great. Now let's basically let's add it to the API. So in order to add it to the API, we are going to use Firestore methods. So let's do that. And we also need the user ID, like the user like ID of this user. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move it here, right? And let's do it. So firstly and foremost, we have to get the DB which we created here in the firebase.js. So I'm just going to say const DB it equals to DB is equal to get DB. Auto imported. Great. And after that, we have to create a new ref, as we call like a reference for creating this new record. So we're going to say new task ref, and we are going to use collection provided by Firestore, pass in our DB, like the Firestore instance. You can see Firestore instance, right? DB, and then the collection name, and we're going to use this to create a new doc reference, and doc will basically be imported from Firestore. Okay. All right. So basically what we did is we created a new reference for a new record that we want to create. You can basically imagine something like that. And now we're going to save this. So let's do that. In order to do that, we are going to use set doc provided by Firestore. We are going to give it to the reference. As you can see, document reference. We created a new reference, so we'll just use new task ref here, and then we can provide the information. So we have two field, name and user. So user is basically user ID of the user. So I'm just going to say user.user UID. And in the name, I'm just going to take the task that we created above and just implement it. The other thing that I want to do is I'm going to wrap it inside use callback. If you are not familiar with use callback, I already have done a video, somewhere maybe a couple of months ago about it. So it will be really great if you guys go ahead and check out. I also have written an article about it in Medium. Uh, yeah, but if you don't have time to do that, basically use callback is a hook provided by React. So what happens is whenever you define functions inside render, they are going to, basically, like redefine every render, and you don't want to do that. Sometimes you don't want to do that. You only want them to change if certain variable changes inside them. In our case, we are using task and user ID. So we are going to provide these two variable and like as a dependency, and we're going to say that whenever these two changes, whenever task changes or changes, this function will get redefined, and if they don't change, don't redefine it. So it will basically also help us to keep the references inside these functions to latest value of the variable, but also help us not like also help with, us with the performance by not redefining it in every render basically. So that being said, let's see if this works. By the way, this set doc, it's a promise, you can see. So this is a great tip. If you're a developer, or if you're starting out, or whatever, if you're using any SDK, third party library, something like this, you can always go ahead and have this information at your at your command. You can just go ahead and hover over it, and you can read about all of this, what it needs, what kind of data you have to provide. Sometimes we are confused what kind of like variable, like arguments or parameter types we have to provide. But here you can see like the description of every param. It's a really good thing. You don't even have to go to the Google or anything, Stack Overflow. You just go here and just read this. So it will like return a promise, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's just add a task. I'm just going to give it a good refresh. I'm going to go to the network. Let's go to network and let's see. So buy something, and you can also have a look at our collection. So in our collection right now, our collection is empty. I'm just going to reload it. So you can see our collection is empty. So now let's just add a task. Click on that task and you can see the API is being made, and you can see the record here. Whereas if I go here, click on this, you can see the name and the user, just like that. It's as simple as that. Now we have added a task. Now let's add another task. Buy something 2 times. All right, click on add task and go in our like firebase console, and you can see we now have 2 records, and that's great. This is like the creating a record in Firestore. It's so easy, and if you have like multiple collections, you can always just rename this to something else, and you can save in that collection as well. So here it is, here like adding. So now let's this is adding. Now let's get all the tasks, which is a bit tricky and maybe confusing. So let's do that first. So what we are going to do is we are going to define a function. Do we do that? Yeah, let's define a function. So we'll define a function called we'll call it const fetch. By the way, this naming convention is wrong. Like it should be, A should be small. So fetch tasks, right? And this will be a async function because we are going to use await inside it. So async, and now what we're going to do is, firstly foremost we have to create a query to, so what I'm going to do is I'm only going to fetch the task which is related to this, or which are created by this user. That's why we added this user ID, and this is how I'm going to filter them out. So what I'm going to do is fetch tasks, and then I'm going to say, firstly foremost get the DB, or what I'm going to, first and foremost what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if user is defined, because initially user is undefined, and then we fetch it, and then only then we use it. So it will be like it will be null at the start, so it will basically throw an error. So that's why I put a if there. And then we're going to create a query const q as in query, and we're going to import query from Firestore, query collection, right? Which collection we want to query? It's tasks, right? And then I'm going to put the query, I'm going to use where user comma double equal to comma user dot uid. So basically what I'm saying is go into our DB, into the task collection, and get me all the records where the user where the user field equals to user.uid of the current logged in user. That's what I'm doing basically. So great. So now we have the query. Now we have to execute it. So let's do that by we're going to do const they call it snapshot, so I'm just going to call that. You can also do results if you want to, which is like more easier to understand. So I'm just going to do a result or results, and then I'm going to say get docs like this, and inside get docs there will be query, right? And I'm going to await it. So await it. I'm also going to put it inside a try catch to catch an error. So try and then catch the error if there is any, and console.log the error. We don't have to do any fancy error handling here. So great, it says DB is not defined. Yes, it is not. So let's define DB. So const DB equal to get DB. One thing we can always do is we don't have to get it again and again, the DB from wherever we are calling it, because we can always just import it here and just save it inside like a global variable. I just don't want to do that right now. So yeah, but that's always easier. If you're using a lot of DB instances in a lot of different places, just import it here in one file and just use it globally and just use it. But yeah, for this it will work. So great, we have the query, we have executed it. Now let's console log our results. Yep. And let's see if it will work. So now let's reload the page. Nothing will work. Reason being, I'm not calling this somewhere, right? I have to call it somewhere. So I'll do it inside use effect. In a different use effect, and I will explain why I'm doing that. But yeah, I'm just going to use a different use effect, and I'm just going to call this fetch tasks, and just going to say only get called when user gets changed. Yeah, because user is its dependency, because it basically how the render works is this will get called first time if I remove this, and at the first time user is always null, so this thing will never work. So what I'm telling it to do is whenever user basically get modified or changed, basically call it again, and then it will have the latest instance. And I think I should also just put it inside use callback. I think that will be much more easier to do. And then instead of here, I just have to call it here. But I still have to call it like this, right? So yeah, whatever. So now let's reload the page. And as you can see, there is some things going on here. And if you look at docs, there are like some 2 records which basically correspond to our task. So how are we going to extract that information? In order to do that, what I actually have to do, if you look at the prototype, you can see we have a for each here, right? So we're going to use that. For each, so they provide you a for each, so you can like trade through the list, but they don't provide a map, which is for some reason, you know, there will be a strong reason for that. But what we can just do is for like we can loop through them and push them into an array and use that array, you know, save that in our state and just render it. So doc, so every record is called a doc, and you can just say doc dot data to extract the data basically. So I'm just going to console.log it. Give me a second. So all right, so now, right, so you can see, right, so we have these two basically records. So now we are able to save records and get them. Now let's show them in the UI. So what I'm going to do is, and maybe there are better ways to do it, but this is how I do it all the time when I work with Firebase. So what I basically do is either you can create a utility function for this, but you know, for this it will work. So I'll just say let tasks equal to, not task, let's say result tasks. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say results this will be an empty array. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to return I'm going to do something like this. So return, not return, but I'm just going to say result task dot push an object with triple dot doc dot data. But there is one thing missing here. You can see in the name and the user and stuff, but you will not be able to see the UID of this record, and we need that UID in order to delete the record maybe, or maybe for other stuff. So you can get that by doing something like this, doc.uid. I think that's how it's being done, but yeah, we'll find that out. So doc.uid, and let's see if that works. I'm going to console these result tasks and see if we have the new array result tasks, and you can see the array and UID undefined, and this is undefined. Yeah, I think it is ID, not UID. Let's just reload it. UID, and if I go ahead and match it with the Firebase console, you can see they match, right? IE and TB. Yeah, I do. So that's great, right? So we are able to like get the information. We have that in a good structure. Now let's just save it inside our state. So I'm just going to say set tasks here, paste it, const tasks, set tasks equal to use state. And yeah, now what we're going to do is we're just going to map over it. I can use this, right? Yep, let's do it. So after add task, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map over task.map and say for every task, I'm going to render this div and basically going to do is task dot name here, and inside the key I'm going to do task dot uid because I think I named it there, right? So uid, great. Now reload this page and you can see that in the UI, I guess UI, great, right? So we are able to create records. Now we are able to fetch them and show them here. And now let's delete them. You know, that I think that will be the last thing that we'll do, and we will basically end this video. It's already gotten at I think almost a half an hour. So we'll just just wrap it up. But yeah, some of you guys commented on like previous videos and you really like this live coding session thing rather than a pre-recorded session. Yeah, that's the whole idea behind this live coding session, is that I show you really how much time it takes to build all of these things, and not some cut it like a pre-cut version. And I'm glad that some of you guys are really liking it. And if you want me to like do a video on a different area, please let me know. People wanted me to do a Firestore video. I'm doing that right now, and I also was checking out some comments, and you guys want me some, like, I think one of you want me to do a video on Firebase hosting, so I'm also going to do that in the upcoming weeks. But yeah, let's stay on the course. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to render. I want to render a button. Let's render a button and let's see how that will look. And we'll render a button, we'll call it delete. Right, and we are going to use this. Right, here class name equal to this, save it. And instead of these big buttons, what I'm going to do is make this p2 and this as 1. I'm going to make them red. I'm going to delete this and yeah, delete, and I'm going to decrease the font, so it will be, let's just remove this, and maybe text access, I don't know. Yeah, so text access does the job. And yeah, I like this. Now this is all Tailwind, so please go check it out. I already have done a lot of video on Tailwind styling. They are good for prototyping and like these kind of tutorial, because they help you build UI really fast. So yeah, in the class name, what I'm going to do is I'm going to render this delete button in the front of the task. So I'm going to make it flex, and I'm going to say justify between. So it's basically going to give it space between, and going to move the delete button there. Great. So these delete button have a cursor pointer. Great. So now let's start deleting them, right? So let's create a delete function. At task, we can create a const delete task, and I'm going to use callback. Do I need to use callback? I don't think I have to, right? Because it's not going to take any external dependency. It's going to only take one argument, which will be the ID, and I'm going to provide it to that. So I don't think it's going to use any state variable. So let's not use callback. It's going to take ID though, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's extract db again, get db and db, right? And what we have to do is we have to use a try catch, obviously. Try catch and console.log e. In the try, let's delete them, right? Yeah, we can delete them, right? So we are going to include delete doc here, right? And we're just going to get the doc from the db, right? From the db and into the task collections and the ID of that record, basically. So if you don't know what basically happens with Firebase, is like it's a JSON based, you can say, NoSQL database and stuff, and the paths are basically DB collection, then the ID of that record. So that's what we are doing, basically building that path. And let's see if that works. I think this will be an like a like a promise. So I'm just going to do this and console.log that result as well. And then this is fine. I'm just going to make it a sync. And I'm going to call this delete button. Like this, call this on a delete button. So click, what basically happen, it calls delete task, and it takes the task.uit. Let's see if that works. So we have our task. We're going to the network, click on this, and everything comes as 200. Let's see. Yeah, so deleted by something 2 times. But again, we don't see that updated here because we haven't like refetched everything. So that's what I'm going to do. Fetch tasks, and I'm just going to call it again here. So now go to click on delete, and you can see that it got deleted. Again, let's do that again, like fetch tasks when you add the element as well. So set dot then. I'm using a dot then. You can use a wait, whatever, but let's just do that for now. Fetch tasks, reload this, and let's see if that will work. So buy something at task, and you can see buy something, right? Or let's say land a house, maybe at track, and you can see I can go ahead, click on delete, and click on delete. And yeah, so one thing to check again is when you click on this and if I go ahead and log out and I create a new account, for example Manoj Singh Negi, and say just Manoj at mail.com, password should be Manoj, and if I go ahead sign up and I go yopmail.com here, so Manoj logging, I will not be able to see that task because that task is all only for that user, because we are basically filtering the task here. And I'm just going to say something I have to do, and I click on that task, I will able to see it. If I log out, go inside this, I will be able to see land a house, but not that task. So basically, this query here, it's also working. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. This is a very small, cool video. I'm really thankful to the people who wanted to me to try this Firestore thing. This is a really great way to build a like prototype application, because you don't have to worry about the database or hosting it or whatever. You can just go there and just get started with your app, basically application development. So thank you guys. I'll say, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and please do let me know in the comments, what kind of videos you want me to do. I am here every Sunday doing these live coding sessions, and till the next Sunday, have fun.